This is Nancy from University Foundation College. I'm the head of admissions and student recruitment. We will be having some colleagues from Huddersfield University. I will introduce Dr. Ijaz Ahmed, the International Relationship Manager in the School of Computing and Engineering, and Dr. Simon Parkinson, an Assistant Professor of Cybersecurity. We have also Dr. Jonathan Wakefield, Professor Robert Ward, and you will get to know more about them and the program during this webinar. I will start by a short introduction about UFC for those who don't know much about University Foundation College. University Foundation College is a private college that has been operating for 4 years now in Doha, Qatar, in affiliation of the NCUK, the Northern Consortium of UK Universities. We offer the International Foundation Year Program for secondary school graduates. This is a one-year program that gives access to more than 4,000 course degrees and partner universities, definitely in association with NCUK. Students can join us after their year 11 if they come from a British curriculum or after they finish their Thanawiyya Amma in Qatar. Admissions right now are open, so they can apply easily if they go to our website. They just need to fill the application. Everything is automated. We will review the application and get back to the students as soon as possible. Students who are interested in cybersecurity or any computing program, they can just enroll in our engineering pathway, and this will give them a progression to Huddersfield University, for example, and more details will be explained, I guess, during this presentation. I'll leave the screen for Dr. Ijaz to give us an introduction, and we take it from there. If you have any questions, please share these questions. We will attend these questions shortly. So.
Hey everyone, Dr. Simon will be delivering the main session today. Myself, Dr. Jonathan Wakefield, and Professor Rupert Ward will be there to answer any questions. You can ask course-related questions or any other general questions about the university. You can also ask questions in the chat box during this presentation, or after the presentation you can ask in voice, or you can type your questions in the chat box. We'll be happy to answer.
Okay, perfect. So over to me then. Okay, so let me just share my screen. If you just bear with me 2 seconds, everybody. Let me just get to. Perfect. So hopefully we're in screen sharing now. Let me just. I've got multiple windows I want to. Oh, how do I? Okay. Okay, so yeah, my name's Simon Parkinson. So I'm one of the lecturers who teaches on the cybersecurity program here at Huddersfield. So I'm going to give you this talk today on a cybersecurity topic. But before we get into that, just going to give you a little bit of an overview into Huddersfield, where we are and what we do really. So this first slide here, which I can hope you can all see, shows where we are located within the UK. Very central, as you can see there, very central UK, close to Manchester. Very good link to Manchester, Liverpool, Leeds. Very accessible from them airports into Huddersfield. Direct train actually from Huddersfield to Manchester Airport. It takes about an hour. To get to London and Edinburgh, probably looking somewhere between 2 and 2.5 hours by train. So you know, very very easy to get around the UK, and quite cheap to get around the UK from Huddersfield too. Yeah, okay, so you can get to Manchester more quickly by normal train, 30 minutes. The airport takes slightly longer. Yeah, we're a very multi-faith, multicultural community. Huddersfield is very diverse actually, and we're in a very very nice part of the UK with beautiful countryside, very scenic, as you can see in some of these photos here. You know, Huddersfield is renowned for its nice Yorkshire countryside. So I mentioned earlier on there about being a multicultural, multi-faith area. The university itself is very multicultural and multi-faith. You know, we have over 2,700 international students from over 110 different countries. We have a large variety of student groups from different nationalities, and the university takes pride actually in you know, in developing those societies and helping them progress, really enjoy more members and do things that are beneficial for themselves. So they feel welcome here in Huddersfield. Some of the things on the teaching side, just to make you aware of some of our achievements as an institution. The first one there, the gold-rated University in the Teaching Excellence Framework. This is particularly important for us at Huddersfield. This establishes us as one of the best in the UK at providing education at degree level. It's not easy to get a gold rate ranking, and you know, we're particularly proud of that, and we still have it, and we're going to maintain that in the future. We've also won many awards actually in teaching excellence, and one here is the Higher Education Academy Award, the Global Teaching Excellence 2017. And we also have one of the highest proportion of staff with teaching qualifications in the UK. Teaching, we recognise it as, you know, the qualifications of the staff has been fundamental to delivering a high teaching experience for our students. And also for the past 10 years, yeah, we've been the UK's leading university in the National Teaching Fellowship Scheme as well. So we're a very high achieving university. Okay, so I'm just going to switch slides now to give you a presentation. So the one I'm going to give you a talk on is actually biometrics, so an area of security which you're probably all very familiar with. So I'm just going to switch to my PDF, so just bear with me. So this talk I'm going to give you actually is something we teach in our undergraduate program, but this is a much shorter version, and it's actually linked to research we do within our department. So, you know, it's particularly relevant in two ways. Hopefully you'll come away with learning something from it, something quite interesting. So I'm just going to go over what biometrics are, some of how they work in terms of computation, you know, how they work in a computer system. And then I've got an example at the end, which is quite an interesting one, which is the smartwatch, right? You know, I have one, everyone has these smartwatches these days, but the data that's being collected by the smartwatch has potential beyond just for fitness purposes, can be used in security too. So I'm going to have a little bit of a discussion about that, and that's the research example I've got at the end there. So some of the slides that I might have here might come across as too computing, or some of them might be too simple because it's difficult to have a balance, but hopefully there's something here which, you know, everyone can learn something from. So I'm assuming that nobody has any prior understanding of what a biometric system is, so start right from the beginning here. So biometrics are all about using technology and the living individual, so yourself, and finding a way to basically recognize that individual based on physiological, behavioral, or chemical characteristics. Okay. Now you all probably use a biometric actually in your daily life, and it's most likely your fingerprint for unlocking your phone. Okay. So your technology there is using something which is relatively unique to you to prove that you are who you say you are to the computer. So you can kind of see it as a way to replace passwords by using your own biology. So there are two purposes of them in computing, right? The first one is identification, and then the second is verification. So just to give you some examples there of understanding these, actually I've got the example on the next slide, but just to kind of compound what they are. So identification, it's all about trying to look in a collection to try and match somebody. So we call this a one-to-n matching. So this is like trying to match facial CCTV. So imagine you've got a big database of faces. Perhaps they could be criminals or just the general public, which, you know, obviously has its privacy concerns there. But we're trying to match one person in a large pool and identify the correct person. So that's obviously an identification task. Verification, on the other hand, is much more interesting from the development of computer systems in terms of security, because you're actually trying to establish and perhaps prove that the person who is presenting the information is who they say they are. So we call this a one-to-one matching. An example is a biometric passport. Another example is your fingerprint to unlock your smartphone. And also a non-biometric example there is actually your password, right? When you enter your password and your account details into your PC, you're doing a one-to-one match, right? You're authenticating, you're checking that what you enter matches what's expected. Now, biometric systems, I know I've kind of gone over what they are quickly there, but just before I explain what makes a good one, I think it's important to understand why we'd want them, okay? Now, the reason you'd want a biometric is because of the whole problem about passwords, yeah? You all know that you have to have a relatively strong password for it to be secure. Now, what I mean by strong there is it has to probably meet some policy where it becomes a certain number of characters, has numbers, maybe it has some special symbols, question marks, etc. And it becomes quite a complex sequence of characters to remember. The more complex it becomes, the more difficult it is to remember, the more likely the user will either forget or they'll find a way to circumvent the security, such as just writing the password down on paper. So there's a real trade-off with password systems. Whereas a biometric system, you can use data that's already available without having to have that battle between forcing the user to make it more complex, because the complexity is in the characteristic you're measuring. Now, there are many forms of biometrics, and I've got some examples to show you, but some of the properties that we need to have for them to prevail as good security systems are really that they need to be distinct. Now, distinct means that two people, there's a high probability that they will not share the same information or have the same characteristics, should I say there. So you could think of this, the fingerprint's a good example here. If two people were highly likely to have the same fingerprint, then it would not be a good system, because I'd be able to unlock somebody else's phone, right, using my finger, and that would not be good for security. Permanent, so they must not change throughout the person's lifetime. So fingerprints are actually quite a problematic one, because as you're going about your daily life with your hands, perhaps you're doing something, I don't know, something like DIY, you know, house renovation. Well, the abrasive stone on the hand damages the fingerprint, right? So, you know, there are problems there. Has to be universal across all the people. So you can't have something which only some people have. So an example there would be that you wouldn't want a characteristic which is gender based, because then that's not going to be applicable to all the population. Has to be measurable and easily. Has to be resource effective, so you have to be able to actually capture it in a relatively short time. Invulnerable, so what we mean there is that it's not easy to circumvent it or cheat, and it has to be acceptable. Okay, so I've got some examples just here to show you before I move on. So physical then, I've already mentioned about physical, the fingerprint, sorry, but some other good physical ones which you're probably very familiar with are the iris pattern. So iris patterns tend to get used in biometric passports actually. And that's obviously your iris in your eye. If you used to look at some example pictures, you notice that the pattern in there is very, very detailed. And the detail of that pattern is unique to people. Facial recognition. So this one's often around measuring the distances between the nose, the mouth, the eyes, and the coordinates between them. Behavioral ones, such as handwriting and speech. So these ones are particularly interesting, because think about banks, for example, when you used to give your signature. Well, a signature is a behavioral biometric. You know, you want to be able to identify somebody or authenticate them using that. And then biological one, as a good example there, is DNA, which you're all probably very familiar with, and DNA is, you know, very unique between people. Okay, so I'm going to mention now some of the common parts of how they work in security before giving you an example. Okay, and I think this is useful because it kind of opens your mind to how they work, but also some of the challenges that exist with biometrics, which often result in them not being adopted. So within biometric systems, you have to enroll. Now, enroll means that you have to register. So when you get your new phone and you want to enable fingerprint recognition, you have to provide lots of fingerprints on there, so it knows how to recognize you. It's the same with all biometric systems. You have to enroll, and you have to provide multiple samples for matching there. Now, biometric systems can work in two ways. They can be passive or invasive, and this is often quite problematic to how reliable they become. So passive often means that they're very easy to capture. So an example there is CCTV or a microphone picking up a voice. You know, they don't require the user to actually take action where they have to provide a sample. So an invasive one where they do is like a fingerprint, you know, where you have to provide your finger on the sensor, or the iris scanner where you have to get a camera close to your eye to take the picture. They're invasive. Both of them come with different challenges. Passive, it's very difficult to get clean data because you often have to record it with other things happening in the background. So CCTV is a good example there. If you're trying to do some facial recognition on CCTV, there's often going to be multiple people in the background. It becomes challenging. So an example here of how it works, okay? So I'm not sure if you will be familiar with binary representations and how data is stored within a computer, but I'm pretty sure you've heard of the phrase binary before, and I'm pretty sure you're aware that all data in a computer ultimately is represented as 0 or 1, right? That's just the way computers work. So if we imagine an example now, the fingerprint, the handwriting example, okay? And imagine we want to convert the handwriting into a binary representation for a computer to use to match it. Well, how do you do that? Well, there has to be a process to convert this sort of continuous structure into zeros and ones. So we actually call this discretization, and that's really the mathematical process of converting something that's continuous into something that's discrete, so 0 and 1. So the way we do this is a very primitive example to show you, is you use some basic assumptions, you develop some rules, okay? And so with this table here, we've got cells, you know, we've got the columns and rows. Now all we do is we say, if this S here passes through one of these cells, then we have a 1. And if it doesn't pass through one of the cells, we have a 0. So if you look at the bottom here, I've got two binary blocks, if you like, two binary numbers. So this one is all ones, and the reason it's all ones is because every cell in this image here has a line going through it in some way, even if it's only a small amount, right? Every cell, so you get all ones. This one over here on the right, you can see that these cells here and this one are clear, so they become the zeros, and that's what you have here. So you can see that we've taken this S and we've converted it into a 0 and 1 representation. Now the problem is here is how do you determine the size of these blocks, basically, because with this image here, with this scheme, sorry, where we've only got 4 by 4, there are many different S's you could draw in here, which would give you the same binary representation of all ones. Okay, so this system would not work in practice, but this is how it works. It just has smaller sizes, so we do it on a pixel level rather than on such a big area. So the next challenge we have, after we've actually managed to capture the data and convert it into the binary digits, is we have to work out, well, how much of it has to match to be valid, okay? So if we just go back to that fingerprint example again on your phone, well, when you put your fingerprint on your phone, each time you're probably going to put it in a slightly different place, yeah? Every time it's going to get a slightly different image or whatever kind of data it's capturing from your fingerprint. It's not going to be the same every time. So you have to develop a percentage match, okay? Now, if we were to take these two that I had before and said we want a 100% match, well, clearly these aren't a 100% match, so it'd be rejected, okay? But what about if we said we only wanted a 5% match, okay? So with this one and this one, a 5% would actually be valid, and the reason it'd be valid is because I think we've got 16 digits here, so obviously 5% is less than one of them, and there's always going to be one of them that matches, so this would be a valid match. But obviously they're nothing like, they're very different, so that's an incorrect match. So you've got to find the correct threshold, which is problematic, okay? It's not, you've got to do a lot of experimental analysis to determine that. So an example I just wanted to show you really now is the wearable technology, the health data, because it's quite an interesting area, and I'm quite interested in this myself actually, and it just links to some research we did. So I'm pretty sure a lot of you will have a fitness tracking watch, you know, to monitor your steps, maybe monitor your sleep to see how healthy you are, or to improve your health perhaps. But these devices actually have, you know, a very rich data source, which is behavioral, okay? Now you could say, okay, it's slightly biological too, because it's getting your heart rate, but really your heart rate is probably linked to activities you're doing, okay? So if you're somebody who wakes up at 5 a.m. every morning and goes running for 1 hour, then, you know, you're going to see that for that 1 hour, your heart rate should increase, and your step count should increase too. So it's a very rich data source there for trying to understand somebody's behavior, and that behavior could be used potentially to discriminate between two people, right? So if you took my data and perhaps I don't know, just a friend's data and compared them together, hopefully there should be sufficient difference that you could easily tell which one is me if you had my profile. So just the example here that I'm going to show you is we have some data, 5 participants who use the Mi Band 3. You probably all know the Mi, the company, one of the lowest cost bands you can buy, and that's why we had them as a research project. Now I think the version 5 is out, but these are particularly interesting because the data is easy to extract. So these 5 participants wore the band for 3 months, okay, 24 hours a day, and we have the data in terms of heart rate, step count, and sleep for these 5 people for the 3-month period. So just going to show you some examples of the data, and then show you how you can use that in a biometric system, okay? So this is an example heart rate here. So the blue dots on there are recorded samples of someone's heart rate at time periods. Now that the actual Mi Band only records the heart rate at, I think it's 5-minute intervals, or it becomes more intense when activity happens. But the little red crosses between them, that's interpolation. So we're kind of smoothing it out to get the averages as we go. But you see 24-hour period there, that's somebody's heart rate changing. Now, if we look at steps, let's go to this one here. This one's quite interesting because it shows somebody's steps over a 24-hour period. Now, the data we get from the Mi Band, it's not a very smooth sort of continuous profile. It records in blocks, okay? So you see here that at this time we get that somebody's done 60 steps, and then 80, etc. And it's always grouped in terms of the activity when it happens. So here you can probably see the person woke up, maybe the walk to work there, maybe this is lunchtime, walking home, an evening sort of thing. It's often grouped into the activities, obviously. And then in terms of sleep data, because sleep data too is quite interesting to process, we have that in terms of light, deep, and awake during the sleep cycle. Now I know this one's pretty difficult to see, but at the top there we have that. So we have the light sleep, the red crosses the deep sleep, and then we have the awake minutes there in yellow. So you see somebody's sleeping profile. Now what we did then is we took all this data for the 3-month period, and we wanted to actually use it to basically say, okay, if somebody comes to a PC with their smartwatch, one of those 5 participants, and provides their latest data, can it unlock and match them to the correct person? Now, the problem we faced with that is it's quite difficult to do, because if you just took somebody's data at that time point, there's very little difference, right? So if you took my heart rate when I'm in the office and a colleague's heart rate when they're in the office, there's probably little variation. So what we do, and this is what happens in this area actually in terms of research, is you put it into a time window. So basically you create sort of average values over a time period. So what we have here is we have the average time we have the average values over a time period of we're on 14-hour window. So this is for a 28-day sample to show you here, and each sample on this is the average over that period, and this is for the 5 participants. Now these are impossible really to look at and understand what's going on, but the reason I'm showing you them is because each color on the graph shows a different person, okay? And as you can see here, it's quite clear to see that this person here, the blue line, is very different from the yellow line and the red one, right? So you can see that there's a clear difference between them, and that's good, right? Because that means there's probably a way that we can try then to take the 14-hour period, sorry, and be able to use it as a biometric system. So just to give you some demonstration of how that works in terms of some slides here, we actually used some machine learning. Now I won't go into too much detail about what the machine learning was doing, other than just assume what it was trying to do was learn from that data the pattern. So if I just go back to that graph again, so if you see these graphs here where we've got the different colors, well, it's easy for us as humans to see the difference there, but we need to basically develop a computer program which can learn the difference itself, okay? And that's what the machine learning was doing. We use many different algorithms. I'll just skip over this slide. Now, the one that's the best was called the random forest technique, okay? Now, it actually gets very good accuracy, so 93% accuracy. Now, what that means is 93% of the times when we provided it with a 14-hour piece of data, it correctly matched it to the right person, okay? So you see it's quite reliable really in terms of a biometric system. Oops, sorry, it's just sliding ahead there. I'm not going to go into too much detail here other than show you that this is the accuracy for it working. Now, in security, we use these a lot. And what we've got is we've basically got the true positives, so the correct, and the false positives, so the incorrect. And if you was drawing a diagonal line on this graph, that would be a random 50-50 chance. So anything above that line is good, and we're getting good accuracy. Now, there are problems with this study in that we only have 5 people. And when you have 5 people, it becomes easier to match the 5 because there's less sort of data, there's less noise in the background. So it's quite a limited sample, but it gives you an insight there into to how biometric systems can be developed and what some of the research is going on. So there's very, the outlook for biometric systems in computer security is very good actually. And they're constantly being developed and used as a way to overcome some of the limitations of passwords, or in addition to passwords, like two-factor authentication, for example. But there are problems with them. The problems in terms of acquiring the data and representing it, in terms of the threshold matching, and also in terms of the potential for somebody to try to trick the system once they know how it works. It's not possible theoretically to always enroll all applicants because some people might have characteristics of the body which don't fare well for the biometric system. And it's also impossible to get 100% accuracy just because you have to have a threshold matching system. So you can't guarantee the system really, and you can't guarantee multiple enrolls of the same data. So you're always going to need human involvement there to try and fix the problems, which basically comes back to the whole issue again of that passwords require human involvement to resolve the issues too, and so do biometric systems. So they're not perfect by any means there. So I'll just give you an overview there of a topic that we teach quite heavily on our cybersecurity pathways. Now I just want to switch back out of here and come back over here quickly. If I just go back into, just bear with me, sorry. Oh no, and to get to this one, yeah. So if I just mention a little bit about the courses then we have at Huddersfield, where this kind of content is taught, and obviously many other aspects of cybersecurity as well. We have 2 undergraduate degrees. So we've got the computer science with cybersecurity, which is an honours degree. We also have web programming with cybersecurity, which is also an honours degree. And then as an MSc degree, we have a new course of ours actually, which is cybersecurity and digital forensics too. So I do recommend you check these out on our Course Finder website to have a good look at the content. If you do have any questions about any of the content, my email address is on there actually, and feel free to get in contact with me if you have any queries at all. So thank you very much for listening there, and I'll stop sharing my screen now and come back just to the normal presentation mode. And if anyone's got any questions, more than happy to answer them.
I believe there were too many questions that has been answered or were being answered by the panelists. Thanks everyone. Dr. Ijaz?
Thank you very much, Simon. There are a few questions. One question a student asked about the requirement for the cybersecurity course. Normally in the UK, we accept A levels are equivalent. Obviously, it's different for different countries. If you're doing a course in UFC foundation level course, obviously you can apply for any of our courses. You can, we will share our email addresses as well at the end, and you can ask specifically which course you want to apply for and what are the requirements for your country, and we will be happy to answer the detailed in detail.
Also, students who finish our international foundation year in an engineering pathway, they can go directly to Huddersfield to pursue any computing program they're interested in. Definitely, they can know much more about that if they contact us or contact you, Dr. Simon, Dr. Ijaz, or Huddersfield admissions office. I have also a few questions raised by attendees. Some students are asking what sort of student support provision is in place.
Yeah, so do you want to answer Ijaz or shall I?
Yeah, I'm happy to answer this. In our School of Computing Engineering, in all of those schools, including other schools as well, we have student guidance teams. We have special office, and the team is like the number of people in that team, and their only job is to support students. Especially international students get a lot of support from them. like assignment support, academic writing support. If they feel any other problem in studies, they get all the support they need. In addition to this, our professors and lecturers, they can easily make an appointment with them, and they can go and see them as well. It's not like just guidance team. Normally, students easily access to their lecturers, and they can go and see them. They can discuss any assignments, any coursework with them. But this is additional, like our guidance team is additional support. If they need further support, how to write assignment and to understand an assignment, all that kind of support is available to the students as well.
Very interesting.
So do you want to add anything to this?
No, I think I just agree with what you said there. Yeah, I don't have anything additional there other than, you know, just agreeing with it. We've got a fantastic support service within our school to help students with their academic writing, any academic issues they have. We support them through that.
Interesting. I have another question. Do you offer any scholarships for master's degrees for honor students?
We have different scholarship at different levels. After they complete a degree with us, we give them a special scholarship if they want to continue with us. And even after master's degree, if they further want to continue with us and do PhD, we give them even further scholarship. So the scholarships are different depending on what kind of grade they get at different levels. For example, if they get distinction in masters, they can apply for a special scholarship for PhD, which is up to 100% scholarship.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it depends on their grades. Basically, scholarships are different, and we can provide them detail when they are at that stage.
By the way, speaking about scholarships, do students from NCUK centers benefit from a certain kind of scholarship?
Yes, for different regions, we have different scholarships as well.
Mm-hmm.
What I will do after the end of this session, I will send you an email and provide you the detail, what kind of scholarships are available for this region, for MENA region.
Perfect. This question, I guess it is for Dr. Simon. Please, Dr. Ijaz, you tell me. It says, is voice recognition a good biometric or bad for security purposes?
That's the very good question there. I think it depends heavily on how capable it is at learning the person's voice. So one thing that we noticed in security actually that's very bad is, especially in the UK, is the regional accent problem, right? Mm-hmm. So everybody seems to have a slightly different accent, and that makes it very difficult for the computer to learn. Mm-hmm. So it has good potential if it's capable of learning over a long time. So Apple Siri is particularly good at this, where it acquires your data over a longer period and refines its model. But in terms of security, it's problematic, really.
Okay, cool. Doctor, do you have any advice for those who want to enter this specialty? I believe he means those who want to study cybersecurity programs.
Yeah, so I think the best thing you can do if you're planning on going into cybersecurity actually is to start doing some background reading in terms of what are the latest developments. Cybersecurity is a very quickly developing technology. Research progresses fast, and so do the products that are on the market. So the best thing you can do is to start really looking at literature, looking at news, and then also looking at some of the technology companies and seeing what they're doing. It's probably, in my experience, it's one of the areas within computing really which is the most quickly growing in terms of employability. It's a very, very sought after skill is cybersecurity, and the job opportunities are great. But to prepare yourself for then job opportunities, you need to make sure that you're getting the right kind of knowledge and expertise that the employers want. So another good tip that our undergraduate students do is they're frequently actually looking at what jobs come on the market and what the employers are looking for in terms of skill sets. And then we're making sure that we align some of our teaching, some of our projects that we give the students to them problems, so that they're well equipped once they leave us.
Interesting. Do you offer any sandwich here?
Yes, we do. Yeah. So we help students try and find placements. Actually, we have a placement team within our school, dedicated resource to handle placements. And we're sending students on placements, actually, security ones as well. We have some in the police in the past. We've got some overseas as well. We've got quite a few in security in different locations, but also just in IT in general. We have a lot of students placed, and we have good facilities to help the students get placed.
Normally, after second year, students get 100% of our students get opportunity to apply for placement.
Yeah.
And the placement year is third year. After second year, they can go for placement. And during the second year, they work with, as Simon said, they work with our placement unit. They help them with their CV skills and all of the skills, interview skills they need for placement. And then they make sure they provide them all the support they need and for their placement.
And another important point is, as international students, they don't pay a penny for it. Okay, so I took the step a few years ago of making it a fee waiver year. So any international student who wants to do a placement with us, they don't pay any fees for that year. And in fact, because they are predominantly in well-paid jobs, they actually can generate quite a significant amount of income during that year compared to students that don't take that placement.
Wow, that's amazing, Professor. Thanks for the information. I read the question. It's quite interesting. It was answered by Dr. Jonathan though, but I'd like to bring it up. Someone was asking if you have sports facilities and societies.
Yeah, so there are lots of different sports societies run through the student union. So I've given a link to where you can find what groups there are. In addition to that, there are country-specific student societies. So you're in Qatar, is that correct?
Yeah, true.
Yeah, so we have a Qatari student society, so you can meet students, other Qatari students. But not only that, you can go to events by student societies from other countries and find out about their culture. So, you know, coming to Huddersfield is not just an opportunity to learn about UK culture and make contacts and friends with the UK students. It's also an opportunity to meet students from all over the world and find out about their culture and make friends with them and contacts.
Interesting. Thank you, Dr. Jonathan. Someone is asking, he's saying, I'm a student in my second year of university. I did 2 courses from Cisco. Their names are Intro to Cybersecurity and Cybersecurity Essentials. What should I do next?
What, in terms of further courses? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a difficult one, that, because there's so many professional courses out there for cybersecurity. So really, I think it depends on how much they really want to get more certification. There's lots in the UK from an organisation called CREST, which, you know, really quite well represented in terms of employability in the UK. But they're quite expensive qualifications to do and quite time consuming. But you know, they're some of the best, the CREST ones.
Yeah, I see. I don't know if Dr. Ijaz or Professor Trubert or Dr. Jonathan would like to add anything before we get any new questions?
Yeah, I know that mainly students are interested in cybersecurity related courses. We have hundreds of other courses as well in the School of Computing. And ideally, I suggest students should visit our website, courses.hood.ac.uk. I also shared a link in the chat box. So they visit the website and find the course they are interested in and see the course details. So we provide full course detail. We list all the modules we teach every year on our website, and they can see what we teach year by year. And again, those who want to prepare well for their university study, they can learn some of the things before they come to us. Like whatever we teach in first year, for example, they can learn some of the things online on YouTube or there are many other good websites where they can learn things independently and they can prepare themselves for university study.
I think I'd make a sort of just a more general point here, really, which is that there are an increasing number of jobs you can go for, and there's an increasing variation in jobs you can go for. So really, when you're doing an undergraduate degree, the role of an undergraduate degree is not a training course per se. It's not there to train you. What it's there to do is to give you the ability to make the right decisions.
Sure.
Okay. So that requires you to understand how to process information, how to combine information to make good decisions and to be able to communicate those, right? So when you're doing the university degree, you should really focus on that, on developing your capabilities to make decisions in lots of different contexts, either as an individual, in a group, in relation to industry, in relation to research, all of those things, right? And then when you've done your studies, really what you're trying to do is you're trying to be learning fit. You're trying to be, you know, a healthy graduate in terms of knowing all these bits of information and then being able to apply them in different contexts. So it's not about a particular exercise. It's not necessarily about a particular training course. It's about an overall approach to being able to engage with information, right? And so the specifics aren't as important as the general process, the general direction of travel. What you want to do is you want to be capable in knowing about these different things and being able to apply them. So rather than getting fixated on one particular thing, focus more on your own development and how you're understanding and being able to make decisions on things better because you're understanding how these bits of information link together.
Perfect. I have a question. It is addressing Dr. Simon. She's saying, do you expect to progress in the specialty? I believe she's asking what are the postgraduate programs a student can go for after achieving a bachelor's in cybersecurity.
I see. Yeah, so we have an MSc here in cybersecurity and digital forensics, which is progression from that. But also students can go on to do a research degree, either master's or PhD. So all three options are available really in terms of taught masters, research masters, or research PhD after the undergraduate. And we do advise students to actually consider that as an option because, you know, gaining more expertise and specialism in the cybersecurity industry ultimately leads you to a more prosperous career, really.
Okay, interesting. There is a question. It was answered before, but I would need to repeat that because maybe the attendee was not available. Is it possible to have more opportunities to work when you finish this major? It is basically about employment opportunities in the UK, I guess.
Yeah,
percentage, do you have names where you offer placement?
Yeah, so my colleagues, I'm sure, will chip in on this, but I'll answer the first bit, which is, so the UK is very receptive, very keen to ensure that it has computing and engineering capabilities, okay? So if you look at the recent government policy document on what you need to be employable to get a visa to work in the UK, having qualifications in computing and engineering, having a well-paid job, which a lot of the computing and engineering jobs are, puts you in a far better position to be able to get the points for that visa than you would in other subject disciplines, okay? And we have very strong employability. So having a job offer as well is very important for that visa application. So we can do that. And then obviously beyond that, there's the post-study work visa within the UK now as well. So you've got time to get that experience and get that job before you have to have that job, if that makes sense. So it's it's a good time. It's a very good time, really, to be looking to study in the UK in these disciplines for those reasons. Sure. Yeah. Go on. Does anybody else want to add to that?
No, I think you've covered it, Rupert.
Okay, I believe those were the questions, and I would like to know if any one of you would like to add something before I end this webinar.
Yeah, if you have any other questions, students, you can contact us by email. I'm going to share my email address in the chat box as well. Maybe Jonathan, you can type as well your
That's
Okay.
perfect. And I would like to remind students who are interested in any of your programs that they can simply contact you or contact our UFC admissions team. They can study for an International Foundation Year Engineering Pathway in Doha for September 2020 and move to Huddersfield on September 2021 to pursue their bachelor's degree. Gentlemen, I'd like to thank you all for the time, for the effort, for all the information you've shared, for addressing all the questions we received. Thanks a lot, and I wish you a great rest of the day.
So just representing ourselves, first of all, I'd like to thank Simon for what was a really, really interesting, really great talk. So thank you very much for that, and thank you for your time on that. And obviously my colleagues Ejaz and Jonathan as well. But I'd also like to thank you, Nancy, for organising this, and for all the attendees. It's been some really good questions. You know, these things aren't really a good experience if we're not getting those questions and being able to respond to them. We feel that more learning takes place when we get those questions. So we've really enjoyed it. We're happy to do it again, and we're really looking forward to coming and visiting you when we can, when it allows us to, and we'd love to see you all in person and say hello. But in the meantime, we can communicate virtually. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. This would be a great pleasure once we survive COVID-19. I hope you are all safe and healthy. Pleasure is mine, really. It's pleasure meeting you via Zoom now. Hopefully we will meet very soon. Dr. Ejaz, Dr. Simon, also Dr. Jonathan, thank you so much. Would you like to add anything?
No, I'd just like to say thank you.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure. Okay, thank you on behalf of UFC. Enjoy your days, and hopefully we will have another webinar coming up soon whenever it's possible. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Have a good day. Bye-bye.